Good evening. Welcome to the last and the 8th day of Hanukkah. Today we're going to highlight self-control and gentleness. So we're going to talk about the last two fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is one fruit of the Spirit, not different fruits. But we were talking about, or I've been talking about, how every single part of the candelabra or the Hanukkah, I'm using it to represent 9 fruit of the Spirit. Just like this candelabra, this Hanukkah is only one Hanukkah, but it has 9 branches. That's how the fruit of the Spirit is. It has 9 branches, 9 parts, but it's all one fruit. So we've been talking about Jesus as being the light of the world, and I know that I'm taking up one of the spots. However, this is the servant candle, so I did want to highlight it as the servant, the one who does for all. You know, there was a time when Jesus was preparing to go into his crucifixion, into his final time of resurrection, death and burial, really, first. And he met with the disciples to have the Last Supper, Passover, the last time he would eat it with them. And he took off his robe and he put a towel around himself and he washed their feet. And I've heard from historians that at that time, you know, it was customary to have a servant wash everyone's feet. But I guess since they were using a borrowed room or a rented room for this time, for this celebration, and they were just kind of together as the apostles, nobody really thought of that, the disciples. Maybe they didn't think to get a servant, or maybe, you know, they forgot a servant, or the servant didn't show up. I don't know. But they didn't have someone to do it. And apparently none of them took the initiative. But Christ himself did it. He acted as a servant. And that's what he calls us to do. He calls us to be servants as well, servants to the world. So for the last time this year, and for anybody who's curious, the Jewish year is 5782. We just celebrated that not too long ago, and Yom Kippur. And once again, I'm going to light the Hanukkah candles, and I'm going to start with this one today. We're highlighting this one for gentleness, but I'm going to do them this way again, and we'll talk about both love, joy, peace, patience. I'm going to say that this is kindness, goodness, faith, gentleness, and self-control. So we're talking about the need to have gentleness and have self-control. The Spirit is the one who shows us and gives us what we need. He's the one that produces fruit in us. All we do is come to God. We come to God empty-handed. What can we give God? But he gives us what we need. And what he gives us is fruit in our lives, fruit to interact with everyone else, to relate to people in the world, to do the job that he calls us to do, to lead people to Christ. He uses us to do that. So I'm going to say gentleness. It says in the word, let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Philippians 4:5 tells us that. We need to be ready and willing and able and trusting God and allowing him to come near to us. We should have gentleness that everyone can see. Everyone should see that as a child of God, we are gentle, that we serve God, and that we're gentle people. It says in 1 Timothy 6:11, but you, man of God, flee from all this. It's talking about evil things, evil works, and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. So God wants us to pursue gentleness. He wants us to become gentle. And the Spirit gives us that fruit. And also it says in 1 Peter 3:15, but in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. So, you know, anyone who wants to know why I believe in Jesus, why I follow God, why I've chosen to believe in Jesus Christ and accept him as Lord and Messiah, why have I done that? I need to be ready to give an answer, but I have to do that in a loving and a gentle way. I can't come beating their heads down. I'm trying to be as gentle as possible, but God is the one who's going to give me that gentleness. So I thank him for that. And then it says in Colossians 3:12, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. We talked about patience a few days ago, but gentleness as well. We've also talked about kindness. We need these things in order to serve God. We need these things in order to be light of the world, God calls us to be salt. Salt gives flavor. Salt also preserves. Salt also heals. We can't do those things without God's help. He needs to give us what we need. He gives us the tools if we ask him for them. If we don't try to do it on our own strength. It's not our strength that saves people or that brings people to the Lord or that highlights Jesus in our lives. It's the light of God. It's the love of God. It's the Spirit of God in us that draws people near to who he is so that we can share the faith. And then I'm going to talk about self-control. You know, in Proverbs, it says, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. That's Proverbs 25:28. And it also says in Proverbs 16:32 that it's better to be a patient person than a warrior. Better to be one with self-control than one who takes a city. So, you can fight and you can do lots of things. You can win battles and that, there's a place for that. But it's better to have patience. It's better to have self-control. It's better to be able to keep your temper. It's better to be able to respond without anger. Respond in love and in patience. Get a lot more bees with honey than with vinegar, right? That's an expression, but it's true. And it highlights the point that we need to have love and patience and kindness. And that'll attract more people than bitterness and anger and rage. It says also, speaking of a leader, a person who follows God, a deacon, an elder in the church, he must be hospitable, one who loves what is good, one who is self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. May God give us the strength that we need to do these things, to show these things to others. I hope that I've been able to show that to you in these videos that I've been sharing about Hanukkah. I pray that God would impress on your heart the need to draw closer to God, to seek the Lord. I pray that I would be a light to you, that would draw you not to myself. It's not about me, but to Christ. God bless you. God be with you. Have a great day. Happy Hanukkah.